everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we are joined once again by the one and only Jeff Berwick of the Dollar Vigilante and the Anarchast. And Jeff, I wanted to talk to you about something that everyone's been asking me about in the crypto space, which is EOS. And I mean, we've seen it rally insanely. I mean, when it first came out, yeah, we saw 280 down to 50 cents, not great. But following that, I mean, people who bought in at 50 cents, and I know you were recommending it around that time, saw it go all the way up to $22 as of recently. So can you go a bit into why EOS is a game changer in this field?
Well, yeah, you pointed out I did sort of recommend it to Dollar Vigilante subscribers last fall around September, around $1.50, and it actually went down to 50 cents right afterwards, and I got slammed all over the internet like always. But I said actually to Dollar Vigilante subscribers, I said, I got a real feeling about EOS. I think this one's going to be big, really big. And I said, even though it's gone down a lot, it's at 50 cents, buy again, like double down on it. And as you pointed out, it's up, a lot since then. The reason that I really like it is, well, we know Ethereum has problems, that's for sure. And it's bound to have problems. It's a completely new sort of space. There's so many things going on. It's just like normal to have problems. And it was the first of its kind, and it's fairly common to be expected that it's not going to have done everything perfectly right out of the box, right out of the gate. And of course, Ethereum can change, but EOS to me is sort of like a second sort of wave of trying to do something similar, but given all the experience of Ethereum, but with someone like Dan Larimer, who I consider actually Vitalik Buterin of Ethereum and Dan Larimer of EOS to be kind of like the Bill Gates and Steve Jobs of the cryptocurrency world. They're both absolute geniuses,
but not terrible people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs.
Yeah, like they're not trying to do genocide or anything like that, like Bill Gates, and so yeah, not in that way, but they're kind of like the two geniuses in the space.
Innovators.
Yeah, absolute innovators. And so with EOS, I was following it because I really got into Steem about 2 years ago now. It's amazing how time flies. And again, I came out, I said, Steem, this thing could be huge. I got lambasted on the internet. Jeff Berwick's promoting another scam. And it's done very, very well for a lot of people, including yourself. You're on there. A lot of people are still doing well. It's up quite a bit. It's around $4 right now. It was as low as like 10 cents, I think, about a year ago or less. So
no one can complain about that. We've seen a huge rally in the last year.
Yeah, so when I first looked into Steem, I was like, this is genius. Like, who designed this, and how did they even know that it would all work, how it worked? And I looked into it as Dan Larimer. I got to know him. Actually, we become kind of like friends almost. We talked quite a bit. And when I found out he was a 100% ANCAP, anarcho-capitalist, and that everything he does is trying to essentially get rid of government or central banks, I was like, he's a genius. He's already done it actually twice, because before Steemit, he did BitShares, which is another one. So this is his third big success story in the crypto world. Like, who else has that kind of resume? He's an ANCAP. I was just like, I don't know, guys, but I have a good feeling EOS is going to do really well, and it still actually could just be getting started.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would go as far as to say that Dan is kind of a perfectionist. So, going from BitShares to Steem to EOS, a lot of people say, well, why doesn't he stick to one project? Because he's always trying to innovate the market, and I think that's pretty incredible. We don't have enough people like that. We just have a lot of people trying to pump and dump really bad cryptos in the space. I'd say probably 95% of the cryptos that we see come out, not good. But with that said, a lot of people are concerned, what is this going to do to Steem? What if he creates a new social media network based on EOS? Personally, I don't think it's the worst thing that could happen. I don't even think it's bad for Steem. I mean, competitive.
We need competition.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think that EOS has a potential, though, to really take over the market, maybe not be number one? I don't think anything's really going to be taking over Bitcoin anytime soon, but I know you have some different views on that, but I just can't see Bitcoin being like the first major cryptocurrency being just shot out of the market anytime soon. But I can imagine EOS going very close to number one. People said I was crazy a while back ago when I said it would go to number 5, and here we are at number 5, and I think it could do better than that personally. So what do you think is going to happen when we see it finally get released on June 1st?
Oh, good question. I kind of have a bit of a nervous feeling about it because this has been for like a year talking about when it goes live and what's going to happen when it goes live, and you never know what's going to happen. And I think EOS already has done like a hackathon to see if anyone can find any bugs. I think someone already found one bug. So, anything could happen at this point. It's a very entrepreneurial space. It's a very speculative space. Like, it literally could implode if, 5 things all go wrong at once. It totally could. It also could explode higher if it does really well and has no major problems. So, really, it's just a wait and see sort of a thing. We've never seen anything like this be developed for so long and with so much money put into it. There's I think it's well over $1 billion. It might even be $2 billion has been invested.
Well, at one point, it hit $7 billion in its ICO, which I've never seen in any ICO in my life.
Is that money raised or its market cap? Because
market cap.
Okay, I think the money raised it's definitely over $1 billion. It could be 3 or 4 billion. I haven't looked at it in a while. So a massive amount of money put into this completely speculative idea. With a lot of good people around it. It was really interesting, and the way they structured it was really interesting, and everything about it was really innovative, and it was done that way to get around mostly government regulations on purpose. And actually, a lot of the design of it, whereas with Ethereum, you're doing things like the ERC20 sort of coins and stuff like that, which the SEC is now coming out and saying, oh, well, under our stupid government, totally criminal, illegitimate laws, that these are not legal. Well, Dan designed EOS in a way that they can't really say that if you go and you put your coin on EOS. All kinds of stuff like that. So it's going to be absolutely fascinating. I have no idea where it's going to go from here. If anyone was asking, I have no idea. But I do know it has the potential to do incredibly well. As you pointed out, it could go higher than Ethereum if it reaches its potential that a lot of people think it could, and Ethereum doesn't keep up. Now, not to say I'm negative on Ethereum. I recommended it at $2 about 2 years ago. Now doing quite well, obviously. But this is a very competitive space, and we'll see what happens. But definitely something to watch. Absolutely.
Something interesting I saw Vitalik say on Twitter, and then he deleted the tweet after I think 15 minutes or so. A couple weeks ago was he said congratulations to EOS and that he was taking a break from developing Ethereum, but then he immediately deleted the tweet. We don't know what was going on there, but if what Dan says is true when it comes to EOS, and it's not just speculation, but he's actually implementing this new system where, zero fees, possibly password protection, smart media tokens, a potential social media network. That's absolutely incredible, but I am quite concerned about what might happen in the days before and after the release on June 1st. So we'll see what happens, but if it does have that fundamental value that Dan talks about, I think that we won't have to worry too much longer after a minor dip during when it gets released. But Jeff, you have some other cryptocurrencies that you'd like to talk about. What is something that's really standing out to you in the past few weeks?
Actually, the biggest thing that stood out to me has been Bitcoin Cash. I was starting to get a little worried about it. I've been one of the biggest proponents saying, look, Bitcoin is not being properly managed by whoever is kind of managing it. They're taking it down a really weird path that it's not cash anymore and it's now digital gold. And that was not the original plan of Bitcoin. Of course, Bitcoin Cash came out and said, okay, if they're going to do that, let's do this fork. And actually, both were forks. Bitcoin Core was a fork and Bitcoin Cash was a fork. And they said, okay, we're going to just increase the block size and try to keep this thing as an actual digital currency cash. It actually did well for a while, but then went down. It was down to around, I think, $500 or something a couple of weeks ago. And I was starting to get a little concerned because you see the Bitcoin transaction fees getting better now, the transaction times getting better. Part of that's due to SegWit, but part of it's due because people just stopped using it.
There was actually a time a couple weeks ago, I believe, where the fees for Bitcoin Cash were a little bit higher than Bitcoin. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But
really?
And I understand where you're coming from there, though, of course. Yeah. So, with Bitcoin Cash, I know there's a lot of divide in the movement. I don't buy into the divide. I personally, I carry both. I support both, and the market will decide. It comes down to the free market and competing currencies in the end. So whoever wins, good for them. But can you see Bitcoin Cash taking over Bitcoin in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. This is not a set in stone sort of thing. So that's why I kind of bring up that's been the biggest thing to me in the last month has been the rise of Bitcoin Cash, because it's gone up, I think, fourfold in the last month or so. Bitcoin, I think it hit a low somewhere near 6,000. Now it's only up about 50%, whereas Bitcoin Cash is up like 300% or more in the last few weeks. You're seeing a lot of the major coders moving over to Bitcoin Cash now. A lot of people are starting, a lot of companies, Pay or one of them just moved to Bitcoin Cash. almost all the stuff that was happening on Bitcoin seems to be gravitating and moving over to the Bitcoin Cash side now. And I think there's reasons for that, because Bitcoin Core has sort of made it so you can't really do a lot of the stuff that you used to be able to do on Bitcoin Core. It's very structured now, whereas Bitcoin Cash is what Bitcoin used to be. So you're seeing people come up with all sorts of applications now on Bitcoin Cash. There's a new Twitter for decentralized blockchain Twitter on Bitcoin Cash called Mimo, I believe. Mimo.cash, I think, is the thing. I'm already on it just to support it. But those were the things that used to be ideas to have on Bitcoin, but the transaction costs became too high. So you can't have like a Twitter where you're posting stuff all the time if the transaction costs like $1 or $5. And Bitcoin is still quite expensive, and Bitcoin Cash for the most part is generally under a penny, which, if you keep it around that penny, even under 5 cents, I think it can still be a cash. Once you start getting much like 25 cents per transaction or $1, you can't really compete too much, especially on microtransactions in terms of cash. So we'll see what happens. But I've been I'm definitely keeping an eye on Bitcoin Cash. We're now generally it's around 25% of the market cap of Bitcoin, which is pretty big. Absolutely, if Bitcoin Core keeps sort of making missteps, and if people just start to lose faith in what's going on there, you could see a mass exodus to Bitcoin Cash. So this is all totally possible. And
finally, Jeff, I wanted to quickly go into, we have this SEC hearing over Ethereum soon. They had their $28 million ICO several years ago, and for that reason, they're kind of going after Ethereum and trying to claim it as a security. What do you think this could do to Ethereum if they do call Ethereum a security?
Yeah, I speculated on this in the TDV newsletter, which you can get at dollarvigilante.com/subscribe, by the way. And I speculated on it about a month and a half ago, and I actually said at the time, sell Ethereum and sell most of the ICOs until we figure out what's going on. Yeah. And that was back when Ethereum was a lot higher and most of these ICOs were a lot higher. So again, we called it right. We'll see what happens. If they come out and say Ethereum is a security, I don't know what will happen actually. That could, I would think that would drop the price of Ethereum like 80% overnight.
Yeah. I feel like it's a good way to be able to tank a crypto just by the hand of the government. And most of their regulations and their attempts to bring down cryptocurrencies are futile because they're unenforceable. But something like a security, it concerns a lot of us. And I think we probably will see, like you mentioned, a bit of a dip, more than a bit of a dip, a huge dip in Ethereum if that's the case. And hey, that might be when EOS and others might take that place. But maybe Bitcoin Cash, whatever. We've seen it before. Jeff, thank you for going into this with us. Is there anything that people should know about anything coming up with in the cryptocurrency world that you want to leave off in the video here?
Not too much. There's always something going on in the cryptocurrency world.
Fast-moving world.
Yeah, I'm going after this. We're in San Diego for Libertopia. I'm going to the Philippines for a blockchain conference there in 2 days. And they were asking me to send my speech like a week ahead of time. I'm like, it'll be outdated by the time I get there. Like, that's how fast the world's working. So that's generally it. If you're really into that stuff, definitely check out the Dollar Vigilante. As I mentioned, just go to dollarvigilante.com/subscribe if you want to get the newsletter, or our YouTube channel, as you know. And we're just always covering this sort of stuff.
Always pumping out the information. Thank you very much, Jeff, and I'll talk to you soon.
Pleasure.
When big government and central banks attack, what are your next steps? Are you 100% confident your strategy will save you? Because what you do in the next few weeks could affect your savings, freedom, and lifestyle for years, or could cause problems for decades from just one small mistake. But the Dollar Vigilante has your back and will hand you the exact information you need when you need it. Fight back against the evil robbing your future and join us in recapturing the freedom, liberty, and the wealth that belongs to you. Learn more today at dollarvigilante.com/takecharge.